At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Glavan to the podium for the Career Technical Education presentation.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Heath, Mr. Wade, thank you so much for this opportunity to come back for part two of my presentation. I was worried after part one. I didn't know if I was coming back, but I'm excited that you guys allowed me to. I'm excited to do it. Mr. Lynch asked me what slide number out of the 44 slides that I have to start with. I said 1. So it doesn't really provide a lot of context if I don't at least talk a little bit about what we talked about last time. So if you weren't at the board meeting or you didn't hear the board meeting following on YouTube as I do sometimes, we basically were talking about some of the things that we're doing at Mentor Schools to rapidly expand our career technical education offerings for our students. Let's see if this works. Hang on. Did it work? Wait. Give me 1 second, Mr. Lynch. It's not working. Okay, that's a tough one. Okay, so basically I went ahead and I started talking about how essentially what is Lakeshore Compact, and that's one of the ways that we deliver our career technical education for our students. It's a consortium of Euclid, Wycliffe, and Mentor schools, highlighting that we had over 900 students right now that are participating in some form of career tech education. So the concept that students are not interested in this is incorrect. We have a tremendous demand for students that are looking to go into these career fields. And then we went ahead and we said, well, what's the whole point of this? Why are we trying to get students into these programs? And we say, why does it matter? And we have to understand that. And the things we looked at is the results that we're having from students that go through these programs. And so some of the numbers that we talked about at our last meeting was that students that participate in a career technical education program, we have a 98.3% graduation rate, which is higher than anybody in the area. It's higher than the districts individually. It's one of the highest rates there. So we talked about that importance. And then also we looked at post-program placement. So one of the things that we do in career technical education that I discussed is that it's not just they get their diploma, it's like, guys, good luck, a little kick on the door, right on the way out. What we do is we actually follow up and we analyze the data to see what's happening with these students after they leave these halls, right? So we go ahead and we look 6 months after graduation, and we do what you should do. We call them. We say, hey, what are you guys doing now? Are you enrolled? Are you employed? Are you enlisted? What are you currently doing? And we're very proud of the fact that 98.2% of our students who participate in a career technical education program are either employed, enrolled, or enlisted. And that's really exciting, and that's where I inserted the funny joke about not being in the basement. We all giggled. So 64% are employed who participate in a program. 3.6% are enlisted, which, as I mentioned last time, is 3 times the national average. And then 70% of our students are enrolled in a 2-year or 4-year university. And the thing I pointed out then was that, well, how's that 130-something percent? It's that the new norm is that we have many people that are working jobs and going to school at the same time. That's why we see those percentages so high. So ultimately, we have that outcome. And then we go ahead and we go to that slide, the basement, and we say, okay, so let's get everybody to join us. And we talked about one of the highlights that we're seeing is we continue to see year over year over year over year of record growth. So right now, currently, we have 38% of our juniors and seniors at Mentor High School are currently participating in some form of career tech education. So that can be either a 2-year program, it could be a 1-year program. There's a variety of career technical offerings that we offer. And then this is where I started kind of getting to where I talked about the problems a little bit, and then I said, hey, part 2, I'll address them. So we mainly have 2 problems that we're trying to address right now with our career technical education. Problem number 1 was that in 2022, 6.8% of our high school juniors at Mentor High were waitlisted for their career tech education program. So that means they made the decision to want to be in a career program, but we did not have the opportunity for them to be in it. And then it goes, which leads into our second bigger issue, that 6.8% jumped to 17% last year. So 17% of our juniors wanted to be in a career technical education program, and we are maxed out. The seats are filled. And that's an issue, and that falls. That's part of what our role is, right? We're not alone in this. I would say that at Euclid and Wycliffe, they were averaging around 16 to 17% as well. The districts throughout Northeast Ohio, Auburn has similar issues where we're seeing record growth across the board. What this does for us is it tells us that the demand is there. And so when we see this, what we're tasked with and what I'm tasked with on a daily basis is that we have employers that have real needs, that they need employees for these positions. And we have students that want to learn those skills and go into those positions. So the fact that there's a wait list, that's what I'm tasked with. How can we figure it out? As a school district, how can we together, working with the community, address this so we don't have 17% of a wait list? And this is where part 2 comes in. So how do we take problems and turn them into solutions, right? And the big thing is, how do we build capacity and quickly? This is not something that I don't look at this and say, well, in 3 years, we're going to try doing X, Y, and Z, and we're going to try getting some programs there. For the students that are currently at Mentor High School, this is a problem now, and they want to get these skills now, and we have to be able to find a way, and that's what we're working on. So I want to show you some of the things we're doing. One of the things that we look at in order to solve this issue is that we're kind of focusing on these 3 different areas of how are we creating, collaborating, and communicating to ensure that we address this and fill those needs. So the first one is creating. And this is where we're really excited. And we're creating in a variety of ways. Now, some of these we're just not randomly picking things and putting them in. One of the really great things that we're doing at Mentor is we're listening to the community and the business members and saying, what do you need? What are some of the things? And we also look at what are gaps that we have that exist and how can we meet them? One of the good examples of that was our Cardinal Works program. Analyzing our data, we realized that there was a gap of students in special education participating in career technical education programs. So what we did was we went ahead, we applied for a grant through the state of Ohio, and through the Equity for Each grant, we received a $200,000 grant, which was the catalyst for us to ramp up our Cardinal Works program. That is a job training program that is specifically designed for students, special education students. And we're going into year 2 of our program right now. I would say that this is probably, personally, this is one of my greatest prides of what I've been able to accomplish in some of the years here at Mentor. We recently had, the first graduating class was in May, and we already had 2 students that were employed at Habco Industries, and then we had a couple other employed in other places. So again, having that belief that everybody has the ability to bring value and everybody deserves that right to know that feeling of having that position, having that job, and having that sense of accomplishment. When I kind of think of that Cardinal Works program, and I don't want to get too far off task, but I often think, listening to Governor DeWine, one of the things that he talks about is that we're not getting more people in the state of Ohio. This is where we are. And what we need to do is make sure that we are maximizing the resources we have and making sure that all of us are able to contribute. And this is a prime example of that. One of the other things that we're doing to create is looking at some of our new classes. So what we did is we're reimagining what can career technical education look like in a classroom. So for many of us in here, if you think back to what career tech was, say, like in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s, it was kind of like half of the day, right? Half the day you'd go do this program, and the other half you do math and English. Well, I'm going to tell you the truth. Not a lot of that has changed in many ways. And I'm not saying I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is it's an opportunity for us to reimagine it. And based on the feedback from our employers, so if someone spends half a day in a career technical education program, that's over 900 hours in a 2-year period. Now, I can tell you, anybody in business right now, I don't know if 900 hours is required before somebody would start a position with you, right? Depending on where that is. What we're hearing from employers is they're saying, what we need is for you to instill the passion, to instill the basics, and then we need to help you connect us with them, and we will take it from there. That's the lead that we're being provided. So what we're looking at doing is how can we possibly redesign? So what we did is we shortened some of our career tech programs, and what it allows us to do is offer a new CTE elective in between those 2 periods. So we have the same instructor who was previously teaching these 2 classes. Now they're teaching those 2 career tech and now a CTE elective in the middle. And what that's allowed us to do, this isn't like we're thinking about it and we're going to try it. We talked with our business advisory last year. We proposed it, got it board approved, added the additional courses, and now we have over 53 additional students that are participating in career tech this fall, scheduled for this year. So that's a tangible result. Not perfect. We're not solving everything, but we're starting. Some of the other things that we're looking at doing is just kind of looking at, so some of those new electives, just to talk about those 53 students, we added Intro to IT careers, Intro to Health careers, and then Young Professional Academy. The other thing that we're doing is we're thinking outside the box, and we're really reimagining what does that high school experience look like. Because ultimately we see and we believe that students benefit from that real world experience, and having the ability to tie what they're learning in the classroom to how it's going to apply to their passion and their future careers. And so what we're doing is we're looking at some of these current classes that we have, right? When I was privileged enough to go to Mentor schools, 20-something years ago, and now I get to work here, and I love it. And some of these classes were there. International foods, gourmet foods, great options. They are great options. What we're kind of looking at is saying, how can we have these to be more industry-driven in the skills that we're providing? Again, allowing business to provide us the lead of, this is what we think would be a focus. So, and the reason I say this is, no matter how good of a job we do, no matter how many automotive programs or any of these things, I'm never personally going to hire any of these students to be an automotive. I'm never going to hire them to be a welder, right? But our employers will. So our job and what we're doing is we're listening to them and saying, what skills do they need? And then if we provide those skills, they'll hire them. It's a pretty easy concept, actually. It's fantastic. And we're very lucky in Mentor that we have tremendous business partners and community members that are willing to assist us on multiple level points on a regular basis. So what we're looking at is saying, how can we take these electives that we currently have, but turn them into, CTE industry credential electives? So what we're doing is we're taking some of the courses that we're looking at right now, like possibly say like a home maintenance or a woodworking, and tying that to a pre-apprenticeship, right? Tying that some industry recognized credentials in construction. Taking like say a gourmet, no, you gotta go back, don't lose that good slide. Or think of like gourmet foods and turning that into a culinary, restaurant management program. So and then the other one we're looking at is digital arts and design. We're looking at turning that into a graphic media, having like Adobe credentials. You're familiar people in design, whether it's Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, things that I don't know these, but they do, and people will get hired who have those credentials. The best thing that I like about all of this is that the options that we just talked about, whether it's those classes, whether it's talking about the new electives, whether it's talking about, reimagining what the day looks like, is that slide now, you can pull it, Mike, is the fact that that right there represents what the increased cost is for the school district to do all of the options we just mentioned. There is not a single increase in cost in order for us to do all the things that we just said, which is expanding options, infusing industry credentials in those programs, and allowing more students to participate and to ensure that they're able to have these opportunities. So that's exciting. Yes, that was a good slide. Okay. The other thing we're looking at doing is collaboration, and this is something that I feel, again, we're very blessed to have some amazing partners. I mean, Northeast Ohio is just a fantastic place to be, and some of our partners, go to the next slide, Mike. Looking at one of them that we have to acknowledge, Euclid Schools has been phenomenal over the last 5 years. So when we talk about our unprecedented demand, we're seeing it within our compact. So it's within Euclid Schools, Mentor Schools, and Euclid, Wycliffe, and Mentor. And in the last 5 years alone, Euclid Schools has added the following programs. So in just the last 5 years, they've added exercise science, urban agriculture, robotics and automation, teaching professions, multiple job training coordination programs, construction management, career-based interventions, and educational options center, which is something that has a variety of things. Now, when you look at that, you may say, and if you're familiar with the high school, you'd be like, I've seen these before. We have some of these at Mentor. Why are they also offering them? in order to acknowledge that, the increase in demand we are duplicating programs. So like our construction, there's a Euclid construction, there's a Mentor construction. For career-based intervention, there's a Mentor CBI, there's a Euclid CBI. It allows us, by them offering more students, opportunities for their students, we're also able to offer more opportunities for our students. So there's multiple benefits for that. One of our other partners is Auburn Career Center. Again, Auburn, I think, provides a fantastic service, and while we are not a member of the Auburn Career Center, so often a question that we get asked is, are we a part of Auburn? And we're not. The main difference is Auburn Career Center is actually funded by an additional millage on top of the traditional schooling millage that schools pay. So all of our career tech programs that I've been talking about through the Lakeshore Compact, those are included in our school millage that we already have. There's no additional cost. So that's something to keep in mind. So while we're not one of the main districts for Auburn, we do collaborate very well because ultimately we want to do what's best for students. And if there's an opening there and that one of our students wants to go into it, then we're going to do our best to get them in there. So we have multiple students every year that'll participate in programs that maybe we don't offer, or if they have openings. So programs like plant, turf, and landscape, dental assistant technology. If they have openings in them, we make them available to our students, and that's a great partnership. Obviously, Auburn is equally having similar demand capacity limitations that we're having as well, and we're all working together on that. So I've kind of talked a little bit about that's okay, don't worry about it. So we were talking about she's smiling, now smiling. So we were talking about our educational partners, Euclid, talking about Auburn, but we also got to look at our business partners, because those are probably some of the things that are really more of our innovative approaches, and they're programs that we wouldn't be able to have if not for the support of our business community. And so the first one is the Classic Automotive Training Center. So 3 years ago, our compact, the automotive program was closed, and we were left with the decision to make. Were we going to add an automotive program? Did we believe that students at Mentor schools should have the opportunity to learn automotive technology, right? And I think we can all agree, and we did at Mentor, so I'm very happy that this happened, that regardless of how cars are driving in the future, whether it's gas or electric, someone's going to need to work on those cars. And we believe that is, students at Mentor should have that opportunity. So then it came to the next question: how do we do it fiscally responsibly? To build a automotive lab would cost several $100,000. And that just right now, it wasn't fiscally responsible to put that much money into something. But what we were able to do was we were able to speak with Jim Brown, who is fantastic, and he graciously offered us the opportunity to partner with them, and they provide us space on the Classic Auto Group campus. So we are actually on one of their campus locations. We have our training location there, and we have programs there. We're now going into, I believe, our third or fourth year. And the best part about that one is, so currently 60% of our students in that program are in the automotive industry working somewhere right now while they're still in school, and 50% of all students in the program are at Classic Automotive working. And I think that's fantastic. I think Classic Auto Group is a fantastic business. It's a great place to have a career and to help you raise a family. Our other one, I just came from a presentation at this one. I don't know if you guys know Roger Sustar. He is fantastic. Roger Sustar helped create AWT, and AWT is one of our strongest partners at Mentor schools. So we had the AWT Transformation Center that opened last year. Our advanced manufacturing program is actually located at that training center right now. And the AWT Transformation Training Center is a really good example of how we can collaborate to share resources, to be fiscally responsible. Because ultimately, that's our main job. We have to be able to accomplish this, but in a fiscally responsible manner. And when you think of advanced manufacturing, I don't know if it would ever make sense for us to be able to buy a $125,000 CNC machine when we're not actually producing parts. But collaborating with AWT and also receiving a grant last year from Ohio Department of Education, the Innovative Workforce Training Grant, we received $292,000, Mentor Schools did, and with those grant funds, we were able to purchase the manual milling and lay machines at the training center. So what happened was is through this collaboration, we're able to provide the manual milling, the mills and the lathes, and then with AWT providing the CNCs, we collaborate together in a way that works. So I just came from a meeting there. I was at the Partners in Science Excellence giving a speech, and it was really cool to see the current group of apprentices actually working on those manual machines. And then obviously another one we're really proud of is our Mentor Fire EMT Academy. So this is something that came from, talking with the community. There is currently a deficit with public safety employees. It's just, if you talk to any, they'll tell you it's harder finding firemen and police officers. So looking at that, we said, how can we do our part to help prepare and inspire that next generation? Now, no matter how much we want to inspire that next generation, I don't think it would ever be responsible for a school district to ever probably purchase a $500,000 fire truck, right? Or maybe purchase a $300,000 ambulance. Like, I just don't know in what context that would make sense. But because we have amazing partners in the city of Mentor and Mentor Fire, our program is now located at the Regional Response Facility, which is right behind Fire Station 4 at 306. And we have access to all of those resources at no additional cost. Like, the taxpayers have already paid it once. They don't need to pay it twice. So what's awesome for us is we're able to access those resources and maximize that benefit. And if, say, when we're looking at some of these things, there's a call and it has to go out on the call, I'm gonna be honest, it's like super cool and the kids dig it. So it's like fine. So if that ends up happening, it makes it more exciting. And then one of the things that we're continuing to strengthen now as we look to how can we rapidly expand our opportunities is with Lakeland Community College. So one of the things is that we're trying to continue to provide the concept that it is not college or career. I believe that every student, and we believe that every student has the opportunity that they can be career ready and college ready at the same time. And they have that choice that they can make. And one of the ways we're doing that is by looking to embed College Credit Plus into our CTE programs. Because ultimately what that does is that's the best way for our students to gain exposure to college with zero cost for their families. And that's a pivotal time when there's zero cost to show them that they can be successful, that they can do it. And then if they choose to move forward, they can. Or if they choose to go in the workforce, they can. But we're providing that opportunity. And that's what our role is. So right now, this past fall, we rolled out our EMT Academy. We partnered with Lakeland. Our EMT Academy is now a 8 college credit course. Our instructor, Professor Craddock now, as I call him, because he is a professor, he's an adjunct faculty at Lakeland Community College. Our students have that opportunity. And we're looking in the very near future, hopefully in the spring, to offer an additional 5 career technical education programs that'll have those College Credit Plus embedded in them. And we're looking at the courses like business administration, healthcare, manufacturing, construction, the things that we know in Northeast Ohio is in need. And then lastly, just to wrap up, I know I think I'm real close on my time limit here. I mean, I'm not talking as much as Mr. Wade does. I think so. Looking at communication, one of the big things is that half of what, really important what we're doing, but the other thing is how are we communicating it to the community? Because if people don't understand, number one, what we're doing, but number two, the opportunities that exist for their families and for the community members, then we're not doing our job. So we've really ramped up what we've been doing the last several years. One of those is focusing on some real-world initiatives, making sure that we are taking curriculum K through 12 and tying it to real-world learning. How does it tie to potential careers and future areas of focus? And the other thing is then making sure that we're bringing those employers in to help share that experience with those students. So the biggest thing that we did was last year we really revamped our Business Advisory Council, and it was fantastic under Mr. Wade's and Mr. Crow's tutelage. They allowed me the opportunity to kind of take the reins of it, and what we were able to do was in a very short order rapidly expand it. Because when we talk about, well, who should be on our Business Advisory Council? People that have businesses in Mentor and who are looking to hire people because they can advise us. There's not a limit. When I think of Mentor, we're born and bred on small family-owned businesses. So I want big businesses to be a part of it, but we also want those small shops. When you think Tyler Boulevard, 90% of those businesses are small family owned, and we want them on that BAC because they're the ones that are going to hire these students. So we rapidly expanded it, going from maybe under 10 members to now 30 to 40 members. We have a plan this year to look to expand that. So that's what we're looking at doing. And then some of the other things that we're looking at was we tried to streamline what we're doing. So when we talk about communicating, is the idea that everybody's busy. It's not just us, it's not just them. Everyone is busy, and we need to be concise. If we need partners and we're looking for partners and we need assistance, we need to be able to accurately explain it and concisely explain it. So working with our BAC, we created the business partnership guide, which basically says, why partner with us? And then you go to the next slide and it says, how can you partner with us? Here are the opportunities. And this is all feedback from our partners. They said, don't give me a whole spiel. Joe, tell us what are the opportunities, how do we do it, and when can we do it? So that's what we provided. And this was the result of our BAC. So it came out with those opportunities. You go to that next slide, it has some more of the opportunities. You go to the next one, it has a code that you can scan, and it basically lets you click, and we let the businesses pick what do they want to do. Any of those options. We do an a la carte. Because ultimately, as long as you're participating with what we're doing, we're excited for that because that's what's going to benefit the community. So, in a very quick presentation, I believe, those are some of the things that we're looking to address. We're really proud, I'm very proud of the things that we're doing at Mentor Schools, and I appreciate the support. Northeast Ohio is a very special place, and it allows us to do things that this is not common to see these type of collaborations that we're seeing. So I'm very appreciative for it, and I appreciate you guys giving me the time to talk right now. So thank you so much.
Dr. Glavan, I have a quick question.
Oh, and if you have any questions, you can
Just
ask.
because it said questions. You had 98.2 post-placement program. Do you know what ours is like without CTE? What is the rate?
Well, so without CTE, so the issue is, so Career Tech's kind of been ahead of the curve for a long time now, so we've been doing this for years. The post-program follow-up has just been starting, I believe, the past, it may have been the last year. We're now, so the state of Ohio saw what everybody was doing in Career Tech, and they're like, yeah, we should probably see, what the bang for our buck is doing. Yeah. So now they're requiring all students have that follow-up, but I'm not familiar if we've had a year of those results yet, but I know it is newer.
Okay, thanks. It was just interesting.
Soon.
I know you've had a wonderful partnership with Lake Tran to give kids access, especially if they were heading up to Lakeland. Is that also flexible enough to give kids some transport between, let's say, here in the Automotive Center or here in Auburn? Do we have any options opened up there yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So the great thing about our partnership with Lake Tran, which I don't know if you guys have had a chance, it's dark now so you can't see it, but we did just open our they just put the new shelter right over by the stadium. So again, one of our processes, one of the things that we implemented, I believe it was 2 or 3 years ago now, was our Cardinal Go program. And that idea is that how do we remove barriers for our students to have access to a variety of things? Yes, do I have the mindset, am I looking at work-based learning opportunities? 100%. I want to be able to find ways so kids can get to these jobs that they want to have. But does it also work to allow them access to go to the grocery store and to go to Lakeland Community College or to go to the Classic Automotive Training Center that's also getting the same shelter built right there? Absolutely. So students that at Mentor High School, grades 9 through 12, they are all provided free access to all routes of Lake Tran. So they can ride that anytime, grades 9 through 12. And again, one of the things that I think was really exciting about that is we started that 2 or 3 years ago, and so far what's happened is that's actually expanded now to now there is Willoughby East Lake Go, there is Painesville City Go, there is Lake Erie Go, there is Lake Tran Go. So everybody, and again, this isn't a zero-sum game. We can all win. We can all benefit. And that's often what we talk about is take these ideas, use them, run with them. The idea of giving that transportation for kids, that's not a Mentor thing. That's an every kid thing. That's an any kid with barriers thing. Cool.
And mention Wrap the Bus. I always like to throw that in.
Well, I mean, we do keep winning that Wrap the Bus, so that is exciting. Any other questions? Oh, in the back. All right. Cool. thank you. Yeah, that was, first of all, awesome. Timmy Henniger's awesome, so that's great. One of the great things that we did, again, thinking differently about how we do things, was that as we continue to have kids that wanted to expand into career tech education, no matter what, in any business or programs or anything, I don't want to get too much in the woods, but you'll basically see a churn, you'll see an attrition, okay? There's kids that they'll do something their junior year, and then ultimately, for every kid who says that they love this, there may also be a kid that's like, hey, thank you very much. I realize that 100% I do not want to be in early childhood education, and that's okay. What it does is it allows for an opening, a seat, that senior year. So what we do for our advanced manufacturing program is if there's an open seat, we provide that and we allow seniors to apply for a 1-year program. We differentiate the instruction within there because we use some electronic materials, the curriculum, and it allows us to maximize the resources we have. So yeah, super good example.
No question, just a comment. At one point, we had an automotive shop here. That was early on in my election memory as well, and it got dissolved, gone away. Classic, I know, spoke to me at least once or twice saying, why did you do that, Mr. Tuttle? Why did you close it? We need your students to come to us after that program. So happy and proud that this has moved along. Let me relate a story to you also, Joe. Something I probably never told you, but in 1986, I bought a small business, woodworking, furniture repair. Spray finishes. And now that takes some skills, but I had to teach them, and they all learned that. Eventually, my son, who graduated from Mentor, took over managing the 2 shops and doing the work as well. But he now is doing something else. He works for Steris. But that's why all along, this program and the programs I was aware of in Wycliffe, I was such an advocate for it because for years, they were the forgotten group of students who had the skills and the ability to understand mechanical jobs, hand skills, being able to pound a nail, run a sander. Now it's come back, and it's so excited and a great opportunity. The results are fantastic, Joe, and they're only going to get better. So.
Well, that's a full circle story right there. Thank you very much, Mr. Tuttle. That was awesome. I like it.
It's exciting to me, this part of education. Now, obviously, the students who go to college, all that, it's fantastic too. Doctors, lawyers, clergymen. But the forgotten class of students that we had when I was in the 60s, they're not forgotten anymore. And I was not one of those, but I recognize those kids who worked in shop class, went to shop class. So doing much, much better.
This will be a nice precursor to something we'll talk about here shortly.
Correct. Yeah, the one thing that I would clarify, exactly just to touch base and then I'll close out of here is just whether people are looking to go into, whether it's be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, any of those, having those skill sets of knowing how to do some of these, industry recognized skills, understanding craftsmanship, work, woodworking, those are not bad things. That's part of what we're trying to do is really instill those. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Any more? We're good. All right. Thank you. You can clap. You can clap. Thank you.